I am one of your hosts, George Tone, alongside the man who always kickstarts my heart, Mr. Travis Croft. How are you, sir?
I am fine and dandy, a little tired. It was
Mm-hmm.
my birthday in the weekend. Thanks to the hordes of fans who sent gifts. It's been quite
The
overwhelming.
impromptu signing was quite nice, little touch.
It was. I thought so at the pub on Saturday night. It was. If you see me in public and I'm eating, just leave me alone, okay? I mean, it's just that it's getting annoying.
Celebrity is as celebrity does.
It's life in the fast lane, I guess. But it was fun. I get to see Nick Cave up at Hanging Rock on Friday night, which was soggy. And then just the hordes of birthday wheel wishes on the weekend. But and back to work this week, which is just joyous and uplifting as is all day job.
Yep, that is one way of putting it.
How are you going? So you've rearranged the room. People, the eagle-eyed amongst their fans might have noticed things a little bit different behind you there.
Yeah. I have rearranged the room a little bit to make it more of a professional set, shall we say, because the other day I formally applied for the position of Prime Movie Buff for Prime Video online. So I had to put together a little video, basically me doing this, but with hashtag Prime Movie Buff rolling along the bottom of the screen, and it's like a little list of my top 10 favorite movies, which is actually a list of 50 plus blah blah blah. So
how many of us are on Prime Video? I wonder. Not many.
Don't know. We'll see how it all goes, but hopefully, fingers crossed, I will actually get paid to do this very job, ladies and gentlemen.
Fingers crossed, Uncle Jeff comes to the table.
Come on, here we all know that he listens. He may not admit it, but secretly, in his heart of hearts, he listens.
You can just see him curled up in the ball in his bed in his giant fucking mansion by himself, a la Richie Rich, and just to his laptop there, like most like a teenager streaming the show, so he doesn't feel quite so alone. And you know what, Jeff, you're not alone. We're here.
You're not.
We're with you. Don't keep fighting a good fight, Jeff.
Exactly. Now, let's get on.
Employees, they don't need bathroom breaks. They don't. Those pee bottles are fine.
Now, we've got a bit of a packed show for you, and we've got some things that I'm going to be talking about that we haven't done in a little while, actually. And this is something that maybe my co-host hasn't had a chance to check out a link that I sent him earlier the other day. But we have got our chain movie of the week, which is the Inarritu directed Birdman from a few years ago. I get to pick the new movie this week. Travis watched Amsterdam. We have both watched Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas Special. I checked out Wednesday on Netflix and Reacher on Prime Video, and I am very nearly caught up to date on The Peripheral as well. But the special one is going to be a little bit of a conversation about Rammstein and their new album, Zeit, which I've kind of fallen in love with a little bit.
Wow, we haven't talked about music in a while, and here I am, I haven't listened to it yet.
Unbelievable. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show. Let's get into the chain movie of the week, which is Birdman.
Or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance.
Sorry, I didn't know that one.
But I'm kidding. We're here a week, people. Trevor Veal. So I picked Birdman because I'd never seen it before. A washed-up superhero actor attempts to revive his fading career by writing, directing, and starring in a Broadway production. Alejandro Inarritu, I was hopefully getting that right, wrote and directed along with Nicholas Giacchibone and Alexander Dinolaris. I'm so Australian. I can't pronounce shit. Starring an all-star cast. Michael Keaton, who won the Academy Award for this, as Riggin. Zach Galifianakis, almost unrecognizable as his manager and friend Jake. Ed Norton playing himself. Andrea Riseborough playing Laura. Emma Stone as Sam. And Naomi Watts popping up as Leslie. Might be a few other familiar names. Our actual link to the last film, was Amy Ryan, who plays the role of Sylvia. She was, of course, in Before the Devil Knows You're Dead.
Yes.
I had a feeling this is. I remember hearing about this film being incredibly divisive. You look at its rating online; it's 7.7 on IMDb, which is a perfectly fine rating. It's a good rating, but for a film this acclaimed, you might expect, a little higher.
That's fair.
But if you look at you can look at the spread of votes. 2.3% of people rated this a 1. And there's also a significant portion around 6 or 7 there. So I went into this kind of expecting to find this to be the artiest art film that art filmed recently. It was going to art all over itself. Because that's kind of my impression of Alejandro Inarritu, is that he's kind of very.
He makes movies for him.
Yeah, think Paul Anderson. That French Connection last year. He kind of makes films just like him and his fans like.
Yeah.
That they get to the point where they're kind of like so self-indulgent and so quirky that you kind of get lost in them and they lose the point. I didn't like French Connection. This was a gigantic breath of fresh air and an absolute delight to find that. Well, yeah, there are some artsy, quirky elements in there. That the central story keeps it rolling along really nicely. The characters are beautifully drawn, and the acting is superb. The cinematography is amazing. The music, oh my god, the music was amazing. This film didn't win an Academy Award for best score for a very technical reason, people. But it's a massive oversight, and
because jazz is not technically music in the Oscars' eyes.
Not quite, but only metal. That's it. They said only metal. No guitars, man. Did Ozzy score something this year? It really did have a very specific reason. Antonio Sanchez, who won, I believe, just about every other award there was to win that year for best score, because the score, how good is a fucking score? It's amazing. His celebrated musical score, performed almost entirely by drums, was disqualified by the music branch of AMPAS, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, because it didn't fit their criteria. Sanchez had received a note from the award committee explaining the decision, quoting Rule 15, and writing that they felt the fact the film also contains over half an hour of non-original, mostly classical music cues that are featured very prominently in numerous pivotal parts of the film, made it difficult for the committee to accept your submission. They appealed the AMPAS decision. A special meeting of the music committee was held, but that was a rip snorter. And although its members had great respect for the score and considered it superb, they thought that the classical music was also used as scoring and equally contributed to the effectiveness of the film, and that the musical identity of the film was not created by both the drums and classical music. The Academy's decision was not overturned. Nevertheless, the score was recognized at every major precursor award. They won a Grammy, Critics' Choice Award, and it was nominated at the Gold Derby Awards, the Golden Globes, and the BAFTAs. So that is the most obscure Oscars-related fact I've ever heard. But everything about this film is incredible. It's I would a breathtakingly, outstandingly brilliant film. I loved it. This is not your first time watching it, though, right?
No, I watched it when it first came out. And I remember being blown away by it. And the more than anything, because I have vague memories of 2014. And I remember, I think this was one of those times where there actually were a few films and directors that were really playing with the idea. And there are two in particular that have still kept it going as one of their classic things. So there's Inarritu and there's Alfonso Cuarón. Smart editing or single take. And this movie is basically up until the end edited to look like one fluid camera movement.
Which it's not, but it's just
clever. Which is not. but it's edited to look and feel like that, and it gives you this phenomenal window into kind of the mindset of not only Michael Keaton's character Regan, but also the life of this Broadway theater and how close it all is. Everything feels so tight, and it's narrow corridors, and there's just stuff everywhere. There's mess everywhere. And then anytime they go up to the roof, or when Regan is in his underwear and trying to get round back into the theater, the world seems just huge, and it serves to just make everything that we're seeing, these really intense emotional breakdowns and build-ups that we are witness to, seem even more insignificant when brought out into the real world. It's phenomenal use of production to tell story.
It's become a bit of a thing, hasn't it? Because, I mean, the other one who kind of jumped on that bandwagon was Sam Mendes for 1917. I think that was pretty much 2 shots the entire film, if I'm not mistaken. There was one cut. I know there's one cut in the middle, but I don't know if they did that just through clever editing or the.
I think that was clever editing, because the only movie, as far as I'm aware, that has actually done a single take through the whole thing
Russian Ark.
Russian Ark, yeah.
I saw it in the cinema. I was that guy. It's a hard watch if you don't speak Russian. Yeah, I think you're right. But it was it's become a bit of a gimmick, I think. But it really works in this film's favor. So let's talk a little about the story. So we meet Regan, played by Michael Keaton, hovering in his dressing room in his underpants. As sort of a synopsis, he is a former the superhero star. He starred in a series of superhero films called Birdman. We get the impression that is now well and truly in his past, and he's now trying to resurrect his career and gain some degree of credibility by putting on a play at a well-known New York theater, the St. James Theater, which is a real theater, which is where they shot a lot of it, I think. Except it's nowhere near as shitty as it makes it look in this film. Apparently, it's a very nice theater. And he's put on this play that he's actually written based on a Raymond Carver short story. I'd never even heard of Raymond Carver until I went to a short story writing workshop about 3 months ago. So I'm in the know now.
You're one of those ones.
I actually, the guy taught. I mean, it was one of those things where I went to this workshop and like everyone was like, we were around going nodding. Oh, yeah, it's Raymond Carver. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I've never even heard of this guy. I'm sorry. But this is not going particularly well. One of the stars of his play, he's not particularly keen on as an actor. He's having troubles with his daughter, played by Emma Stone as Sam. He's basically burnt through all his money that he earned in his days playing Birdman, and now is sort of mortgaging his home to try and get this thing off the ground. It's what a credible opening to the film. Only sort of broken when a light falls onto the head of the actor who they're not too keen on playing the role, which opens up the opportunity for his role to be played by the much better known and much more accomplished Mike, played by Edward Norton, who I did joke earlier as playing himself, but you know.
Rumors of his attitudes on set, and life imitates art, imitates life.
I wonder how much. I mean, I found myself thinking while I was watching it, how much of it is improv? You know, how much of that did Edward Norton kind of suck into the character of Mike and then put back out there? But apparently, as you note, while there is a lot of clever editing, a lot of these were fairly long shots. So it's not all special effects and clever editing. These were very long takes, and the you can see in the trivia on IMDb the amount of work the actors had to put in rehearsing what to say and when to hit their marks. Sounds like it was pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been described as almost a dance. Just to know when to drop into the scene, to come around the corner and say your line, and you had to hit your mark on the spot. Otherwise, you're going to ruin a take, and it'd have to come back in 10, 15 minutes and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
That would be annoying.
Yeah.
In amongst this mix, so Mike is the husband, ex-husband, lover, partner of Naomi Watts' Leslie, who is starring in the play.
Yep.
They have an antagonistic relationship. And it's fair to say that, true to form, Mike is kind of a prick to just about everyone. The first time he meets Sam, he basically sexually harasses her. Not that turns out to be entirely unwelcome by her later on, we find out. In amongst us, we have Zach Galifianakis' Jake, who is sort of the straight man to Riggins' Dreamer. He's Riggins' friend and producer, I guess.
Yes.
And just trying to keep this thing on the fucking rails. And so we've got all these incredible players at the 12A lead up towards opening night of this play.
Yeah.
One thing that I quickly noted about this film, which I hadn't expected, was the insertion of the element of magical realism. So all the way through the film, we quite regularly see Michael Keaton having a conversation with Birdman, or what is almost like the figure of Birdman or a poster of Birdman. We hear Birdman's voice talking to him. We meet him, as I said earlier, hovering in the middle of a room in his underpants. We quite regularly see him exercise almost acts of telekinesis, where he moves things across the room just by moving his hand, or thinking it. And what I think this film does particularly well is you don't for a second ever think this is real. It's a storytelling technique. I'm guessing it's kind of up to the audience to think about what we really, what really does happen. And that final scene, I'm not going to spoil it in case you haven't seen it, does lend
the I-45.
Sorry?
The scene in the motorhome in the on the I-45.
I-45. Well, I thought the scene where he opened the box in the middle of a field and, then shot John Doe was, I did not see that coming.
Yeah. And John Doe ended up becoming Josh Brolin. It was weird.
And they were brothers all along. Who knew? But what did you make of that element of what I've heard it called magical realism? It's basically as if something supernatural is happening, but they use it as a story technique rather than actual, this guy has superpowers.
I love that kind of thing because it antagonizes people's kind of sense of what is this. People are so programmed in modern society to be going into a movie and knowing what to expect, a la Black Adam. It's a superhero movie. It's starring Dwayne Johnson. You know what you're going to fucking get. And there's a certain amount of safety in that. You feel like, yep, it sets your expectations. Whereas something like this, where it is a mystery of what it is, it evokes conversation. And I love when movies do that. Obviously, not every movie can bloody do that. That I understand that. But just as that delicious little bit of peppering in the Hollywood system that just occasionally comes out, it's as you said right at the beginning, it's a breath of fresh air. It is so refreshing to just see that and just see so many actors from a variety of generations of acclaim and / fame, however you want to put it, coming together in a performance and seeing the younger talent of someone like Emma Stone versus the older talent of Michael Keaton, or the permanent greatness that is Naomi Watts or Ed Norton, and the chameleon that is Zach Galifianakis.
I was really surprised by him. Yeah. Like, I don't think I've ever seen him do a serious role before. I knew he was in this because I obviously saw his name in the credits and stuff. And like, you kind of go, I think that's Zach Galifianakis playing the manager producer guy. But like, He doesn't sound like Zach Galifianakis. He doesn't talk like him. And, worry not, this film is a dark comedy.
Yeah.
It's actually a very funny comedy at times.
Yeah.
But Zach Galifianakis doesn't get one of those laughs, I don't think.
Not really.
And I found myself thinking, why does he not do more serious work? Because he's quite formidable in this role.
Yeah, I'm just looking at his list on IMDb, and this is it that I can see. So I would love to see him do stuff like it kind of got me a little bit like when Seth Rogen was in the Steve Jobs movie.
He played Wozniak.
Yeah, and how different he was and how subdued he was, considering what we are very, very accustomed to seeing Seth Rogen play. Zach Galifianakis is either that annoying, blubby guy that's the best friend and the butt of every joke, or he's playing it really just razor sharp, cutting comedy in Between Two Pines. Those are the things that I really think about for him. And this was just like, what the fuck? It was brilliant.
It was. It's such a cliche now, right? Like, brilliant comedic actor has starring dramatic turn with Steve Carell, Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, notably. Was every bit the dramatic actor as he was the comic actor. I think those other two guys probably don't get the credit they deserve for their dramatic acting, frankly. But maybe he doesn't enjoy it. I don't know. But like he was amazing in this. Fantastic. Obviously, Michael Keaton won Best Picture for this role. It's kind of the film that kind of kickstarted his career. So it's kind of a nice piece of, again, art imitating life there. In the sense that, of course, he was most famously known in the role of Batman. What did he do after Batman? Not much. Not much of note. I mean, I'm sure he was doing things, but the only film I think I can remember him starring in post-Batman before this was probably Multiplicity.
Where he did Much Ado About Nothing, where he was great as Dogberry.
Was that the Joss Whedon one?
No, well, Much Ado About Nothing, Joss Whedon did do, but this was the Kenneth Branagh version with Keanu Reeves. Oh, he was in Jackie Brown.
Oh, of course he was. I didn't forget that. But yeah, so he didn't pop up doing a lot.
No.
In terms of he played the same character in Out of Sight. I need to see Out of Sight again. He played Ray Nicolette in Jackie Brown, and he played Ray Nicolette in uncredited in Out of Sight.
Yeah.
The Steven Soderbergh film. I need to see that again. But he did kind of drop off the face of a planet there from a guy who was the front man, the face of one of the biggest movie franchises in the world.
Yeah.
He went back to doing lots of small stuff. And so interesting again to see him pop up and win his Academy Award in this. And from here, he's gone to so many bigger and better things, like who could forget his starring turn in Morbius. In Morbius, in the closing credits as Vulture, when he said, "Hey, it's Morbin time."
Say it again, and the Wheel of Heigl will come back. There you go. He's gone quiet.
Sorry, I was having some connection issues. I don't know if it's you or me. But he's fantastic in this, and you just never quite know exactly what's going on. Is it real? Is it not real? I read some interesting stuff that compared the Birdman, Michael Keaton, Reagan sort of relationship to almost Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, which is fascinating because, of course, there's a scene where he passes the guy in the street reciting, Macbeth, all sound and fury signifying nothing, Emma Stone was a shock here for me, in the sense I am not an Emma Stone fan. I think Emma Stone is one of the most vastly overrated actors in Hollywood today, in the sense that I think she plays Emma Stone in every film. And this was a really nice turn to see her. It looked like she was actually doing something a little bit different, and actually inhabiting a character who is a little bit different to the Emma Stone characters we're used to. I won't blame her for the Amazing Spider-Man films. She was only ridiculously miscast in those roles as a teenager, and which were, they were just terrible films as well. But mostly, I'm genuinely unimpressed by. She really brought her A game, and the scenes between her and Mike on the roof were some of the best stuff in the film.
Yeah. I really liked the, for lack of a better term, the monologue that she spews at Regan after he finds the bud, the half-smoked joint, and she just kind of just spews out for a good 3 minutes or something. It was great. It was really great performance from her, and it was really hard because the camera just kept on getting closer into her, and it was literally just off center that she was kind of delivering this line. So there was nowhere for her to hide, and she delivered.
You mentioned it earlier, Naomi Watts in this, someone who I think she popped up in that Mel Gibson film a while ago, Boss Level or whatever it was. Was that Mel Gibson?
Boss Level?
Yeah, but the one was based on a video game where he keeps dying and coming back and had what's his face in it from for Purge.
Frank Grillo?
Yeah, Frank Grillo. We're very descriptive on this show. We know exactly what we're talking about. Boss Level. And she just pops up, and there was Mel Gibson in that. And she just pops up in these terrible, terrible shithouse movies. You're like, but my God, she's such a good actor.
Yeah.
She was in David Lynch mode in this film, I thought. But that was exactly what this film called for. And she didn't have a lot to do, but I thought she was outstanding yet again. And not just because she's Australian. And she said no to the lamb roast with Tom Cruise. If you don't know that reference, but she was in a TV commercial in the 80s for lamb in Australia. And that was the joke. She was offered a date with Tom Cruise. She decided to go for lamb roast instead.
All right.
But there you go. As a claim to fame. But hang on a second. I will get that up.
Is that going to be our sponsor for the day?
No sponsor. It's just a guest spot.
Oh, my goodness. There we go.
One is podcast people on.
We're going to competition. Hello, Julie. Nice work, Julie. You've scored a dinner with Tom Cruise. The stretch limousine will take you to dinner. You and Tom.
Tonight? I'm sorry, I can't. What? Mum's toast.
Oh, great, yeah.
I hope you realise I gave up a dinner with Tom Cruise.
Never mind, love. You can go out with him any night.
There you go. Australian classic here, my friends. Podcast people, just Google name what's lamb roast if you want to see what you missed out on there. That's why we always have time for Naomi. She knew in the 80s that Tom Cruise wasn't quite right.
Yeah. And she is in fact connective tissue for the next game. But let's this movie is more than the sum of its parts. It's like it. IMDb says that it's a comedy drama, and yes, it absolutely is. But it's an ensemble piece in so much more of an intricate way compared to, like, people think of like Wes Anderson movies as ensemble pieces because he has his troupe of actors that he always uses and they always interact with each other, one and another. But in this movie, I kind of got the feeling that if you just took any one of those parts away, the whole thing would crumble like a house of cards. Whereas with something like a Wes Anderson movie, you could take away one character or another and the thing would still keep going in the same direction as it needs to. This is a delicately woven together story.
I think you're right. All a Wes Anderson film would need would be standard, very not quirky. Very good. I'm sure if they had, I mean, you couldn't just slot one person in, one person out. I mean, this cast had to obviously build that kind of chemistry together. And I mean, I guess that's kind of the genius of casting, isn't it? Right, to find the people and look at them and go, this group of people just works. Where we would go back to one of our personal favorites, you know, My Fake Fiance, the person who said, you know, Joey Lawrence, Melissa Joan Hart, these people belong together on the big screen because they've got that chemistry.
Sometimes.
But you know, or we talked about it a few weeks ago, that film Bros, where we had the two main stars who just didn't seem to have any chemistry on screen together. Very different kind of film to Birdman, but getting that chemistry of the cast exactly right, and casting Ed Norton as himself is genius. And the fact that Ed is happy to go and take the piss out of himself like that, you know, respect to him.
Well, I mean, considering what Ed has done with his career in the interim, I think that this may very well have been a bit of a mea culpa for him. It's like, yep, I've been a dick. I'm gonna play that. I'm gonna own it, and I'm gonna behave myself a little bit more going forwards because, you know, he probably really misses the money that he could have had if he had stayed on as Batman.
You're right. I mean, people I think fail to sort of get that about Ed Norton. Now, he was a big fucking star in the 90s, you know. If you look at his you know, sort of work at the time.
Okay. I mean, what was his first movie?
Primal Fear.
Primal Fear, that's right, yeah.
Which is a great film into People versus Larry Flint, American History X, Rounders, Fight Club. Let's not mention Keeping the Faith, but The Score, which starred Marlon Brando, Frida, Red Dragon, 25th Hour, The Italian Job. Not all of those are great, but they were big films. Not to mean for Fight Club's almost an iconic film by now. American History X is very fondly remembered by a lot of people of our age, I think. And even if you go to the films that didn't do well, I actually think he was good in Keeping the Faith. And if you haven't seen Death to Smoochie, which is a ridiculous film, but it's really fucking good. Like, it's really, really good. And the fact that no one went to see it is not a reflection on how fucking good that movie is. You know, but even by the time he was the Hulk, his career had slammed the brakes on a little bit. You know, it had been a while before since he'd had a big hit. So, and after then, you know, it's been bits and pieces around the place here and there. Like, you know, his connection to Wes Anderson's films has kept him going in Moonrise Kingdom and Grand Budapest Hotel, etc. But he's not a big name star the way he was.
No, he's not. But this movie definitely shows that he has still very much got the talent that he had on display.
You don't lose it. He's in The Glass Onion, so maybe that will be his resurrection. I don't know how big of a role he's in that, but I think it's out in the next couple of weeks. It's got a very brief cinematic run here in Melbourne.
Yeah, I think so.
Which I will not be able to see.
It actually comes out just after Christmas, like Boxing Day. Did you have anything more to say on Birdman?
I love this film. So if you're a bit like me and you saw bits of it and you thought it looked a bit too arty for you, or, you know, it looked a bit pretentious, give this one a go. I am not into pretentious film. You sit here and do not get me fucking started on Tenet and, you know, what what Nolan did with that film. That is pretentious filmmaking is worse. Or a French Connection, we talked about that. Fucking pretentious. This is just fucking brilliant filmmaking. Great storytelling. You can make up your mind about what the film's actually about or what it's really doing. It's actually really fucking entertaining. You can just watch it. Don't have to care what's going on afterwards. Like, you're going to be a fucking moron like me who's got no idea about subtext and just enjoy
How
it.
does it fit in with the bigger Inarritu universe, though?
The Inarritu cinematic universe. That would be
Oh, no, we
fascinating.
can't have that. That's ICU.
We could do extended universe, IECU or something. I don't know. I mean, what a fascinating thing it would be to give Inarritu, a Marvel film or a DC film. But I don't see that happening anytime soon.
I kind of feel like there are, considering other companies are so desperately trying to create that superhero franchise for themselves. I feel like there's like an independent comic book that is just waiting for Inarritu to come in and just go, yep, I'll adapt that. And that'll be the kind of the gateway drug for that sort of thing.
Maybe that Plastic Man production you've been looking forward to.
As long as it's not the Wachowski script, that thing was just trash. I'll happily say that to anyone's face. Mine is better.
It's not surprising considering what they put their names to these days. So even of my choice, I pat myself on the back and go, good choice. I enjoyed that. It was a lot better than Penn and Teller Die or Get Murdered or whatever it was, the Penn and Teller film we were almost going to watch.
Chills, yeah. Now, let's go on to the other thing that we've both watched.
Before you do that, though, you forgot something.
Oh, yeah. So the link in the chain, I did say that Naomi Watts was going to be the link in said chain. There's a number of movies that I could have easily gone with, but I decided to go with a bit of an unusual one, and it has got a relatively low IMDb score. I'm just going to go to the particulars so I can give you information. 2017. It has got a 31 Metacritic score, 6.6 out of 10. This is The Book of Henry, directed by Colin Trevorrow, who has generally been living in the Jurassic World universe for a very long time now. But he did have Safety Not Guaranteed. Was that him? I think it was.
I believe it was.
Yeah, Safety Not Guaranteed. Yeah, good. I was suddenly thinking it might be someone else, which is a great little independent movie. This is a crime/drama/thriller, according to IMDb. And this is a movie that I've never watched. With instructions from her genius son's carefully crafted notebook, a single mum sets out to rescue a young girl from the hands of her abusive stepfather. The trailer looks mildly interesting. It's got Naomi Watts in it. It's got Jaden Martell, who is, yes, people may very well recognize him from Knives Out, and he played Bill Denborough in It, the young Bill, of course. It's also got Sarah Silverman, Dean Norris, Lee Pace.
Maddie Ziegler. If you don't know who Maddie Ziegler is the star of every Sire film clip.
Oh, okay.
Every single one of them. And there music. The horrible, horrible movie about autism she made last year that everyone hated.
Ah, fair enough.
Maybe we'll watch that next week. Maybe. If this is bad, that's what you're watching next week, because I tell you what, this looks like trash. How are we watching Book of Henry? Book of Henry is available to rent at all places, I think. Yes.
So the Book of Henry, I kind of went with the odds it being shit, because we've had a run of very good films.
We've been treated well. We've been treated
well. So I'm hoping against the odds that this will be a bit of a surprise. My expectation.
Sometimes it happens, you know. You can think of Death Machine. That wasn't that bad.
Now,
I saw an ad the other day about them adapting Streets of Rage into a film. The video game, the side-scrolling brawl.
I know.
I remember for a minute though, I got confused and thought they were remaking Streets of Fury.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, they're going to make a musical action film again. Oh no, sorry.
Yeah, they could bring back Willem Dafoe. He could still do it.
He's still at the top of his game, people.
Yep.
Anyway, so Book of Henry next week, but we are about to move on to, speaking of all things superhero, I think I know where you're going with this.
Yes, Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas Special. The return of James Gunn to the MCU after the Twitter storm firing, rehiring debacle. And we have got the next thing on Disney Plus.
So, Star-Lord, Drax, Rocket, Mantis, and Groot engage in some spirited shenanigans in an all-new original special crafted just for Disney Plus. Written and directed by James Gunn himself, starring all your favorites: Sean Gunn, Karen Gillan, Michael Rooker, Tom Clementieff, Dave Bautista, Chris Pratt, Bradley Cooper, Vin Diesel, sort of, and the great Kevin Bacon. This is. Did they turn it around? Did they turn Disney Plus Marvel stuff around? Because I don't think they've done anything good since WandaVision, really.
No, they didn't. No, they did not.
So this has got a 7.7 rating from 21,000 votes on IMDb. I've seen people busily sucking James Gunn's dick on Twitter, telling him how much they loved it. You disagree?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it does exactly what it sets out to do. I just don't like it, don't need it, didn't want it. It was nice for them to be able to give Drax and Mantis more screen time, but in the process of doing that, I think they ended up harming those characters and harming the Guardians of the Galaxy overall, because we got the next most like growth of Groot.
And the major plot point for the whole Guardians saga is dropped in this film. Oh, special.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The major plot point. I'm just looking, going, Michelle and I had to pause and go, it's been a long time since Volume 2. Was that in Volume 2? Because I don't remember.
No.
It was not. So I'm not going to spoil it for people in case they want to watch this.
Spoilers sign is up.
Spoilers sign is up. So you've been warned. If you don't want to know anything about this, and trust me, we're doing you a favor by spoiling it for you. The fact that Ego, Peter's father, is also Mantis's father, hence they are half siblings, is revealed, and it's just dropped in casual conversation at the start of the show, and you're like, okay,
yeah. It doesn't. How do I express it? It's nice to see the Guardians of the Galaxy again, but this almost feels like a drug trip variation, almost like, because part of the nice thing about Peter Quill is his hopefulness and his humanity and the goofiness. We don't have that. We have tangentially Peter, who's very much struggling with the absence of Gamora following all of the stuff which happened at Endgame and all of that. And so it's sort of like, okay, no, they're not focusing on that. Rocket is very loosely in there, and at the end gets given a mechanical arm that is very familiar to people, and it's like, oh wait, what? Huh? Okay, is right? Sure, okay. Is that how you're still gonna keep it tied to the rest of the MCU? We've got a little bit of Nebula, still played by Karen Gillan. But again, very briefly in there, this is very much the Mantis and Drax show. And those two work well. They worked quite well in their pairing in Volume 2. At least I thought they did. But I don't think it's good enough to survive 45 minutes and a Christmas movie where everything's a joke. And it's not actually kind of delivering anything on any of those characters. It's not progressing any of the stories whatsoever. This is the Caravan of Courage.
I'm with you here. I thought this sucked. Like, it really sucked. I'm the cards on the table. I'm not exactly the most festive person in the world. You're not going to. Maybe I will get a Christmas tree for the background just for the lulz, but it's not really how I roll as a rule. So that's probably worth declaring in the sense that, a Christmas movie is not really ever going to be top of the pops for me. I'm not sitting there like, have you seen? I don't know if you've got Stan, but the array of Christmas shite on display on Stan right now. They've got they've bought like half of Hallmark's back catalog of Christmas movies. So that's not really what I'm about. So Christmas movie, I could take it or leave it. But I love what James Gunn does most of the time. Like we both love Peacemaker. We were both very impressed by Suicide Squad, I think. I think we were fanboys. We both go back to Slither and Super stuff like before Marvel. Apparently he wrote this in 2 days or something. Like he apparently went to Kevin Feige and said, "Can I do it?" And they sort of said, "Yeah, bring us a script and we'll talk about it." This is secondhand information, what I've been told. Yeah. And he wrote it in 2 days and brought it back. And it feels like it was written in 2 days.
Yeah, it does. It hasn't got his usual polish on it.
I mean, apparently he wrote like Peacemaker in like a month, but maybe that's what it takes. He needs a month, not 2 days. I was expecting something along the lines of maybe Star Wars Christmas special, like extra goofy and ridiculous over the top, like that. And that could have worked. In looking into this, there was a video clip they made for Volume 2 called Guardians Inferno by the Sneepers. You can find it on YouTube. They made it for the DVD, I think. And it's got David Hasselhoff in it. And it's like a parody of like a 70s film clip.
Yeah.
It's fucking great. Like it's a 3-minute music video with all the stars of a movie in it, but as themselves, like being wacky and dancing and stuff like that. And it's really, it actually succeeds on being the level of being an absolute banger of a song and being funny and having David Hasselhoff. It just works on so many levels. That's what I was expecting here. Cheese up for wazoo, and cheese up for wazoo could have worked with these characters, but I couldn't figure out what this was for, like who this was for. So 20 minutes, and we were like, oh, okay, they've made this for 10-year-olds, all right? Because it's pretty goofy in the sense that, Drax and Mantis travel to Earth to kidnap Kevin Bacon as a present for Star-Lord because he's his favorite movie star. But they don't realize he's actually an actor and not the person who saved that town by dancing and killed Jason Voorhees in one of the movies. And it's kind of goofy. Of them trying to, break into his house and kidnap him and, steal all the Christmas stuff and having photos taken outside Man's Chinese Theatre because everybody thinks they're, there's people who have their photos taken outside of Man's Chinese Theatre for tips. But then there's a scene just after that where the cops start shooting at them in the street.
Yep.
And like they're flipping police cars around and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's actually a little bit violent for a 10-year-old, I would have thought. And given the state of policing in the United States right now, police randomly opening fire on 2 people of color in the street, be it they're not human, But you know, and then
Still.
flipping police cars on their roofs. So like it's just a little bit. I don't know if that would be okay really for a 10-year-old in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so it's not for 10-year-olds, or is it? Like, who did you make this for? It's not cheesy enough to be funny. It's not straight enough to be entertaining like a standard Marvel product would have been. It's just sort of stuck in the middle. It's kind of, it's almost earnest.
Yeah.
And like
Actually,
it shouldn't be. It was a Christmas. A bunch of guys dressed as aliens, instruments, who play a Christmas song, and the joke is they don't really understand what Christmas is, but it's kind of not goofy enough. So it's almost plays straight. Like it's almost a straight Christmas movie starring Marvel people. I'm like, I just don't. I don't know what you're selling here, James, but I don't get it.
I kind of feel like it needed to be a story of two parts, because it was kind of fun. The aliens in the band, and they're talking to Star-Lord, and they're saying, "Oh, we've gathered together everything that we can from all these people about what Christmas is," and just them kind of regaling what Christmas is through song. That was kind of fun, but I feel like maybe that could have been the hook to try and actually show the level of emotional turmoil that Star-Lord is going through, given everything that he's lost recently. You know, all the revelations, Yondu's death, Gamora's death, and then coming back and then going away, and all of that stuff. Christmas being the thing that kind of brings him back out of his shell, and him trying to show these aliens who don't know. That could have been the more earnest side of this, more honest side. And then we keep on cutting back to Mantis and Drax having a scenario where they can go a little bit more overt with their outrageousness. And hell, they could have even done kind of a reverse Home Alone kind of thing with Kevin Bacon, where they're trying to get Kevin Bacon in, and then the culmination at the end. But the end also seems really weird. It's like, okay, so suddenly you're putting in this bizarre social message of kind of consent with Mantis's power, for one thing. And it's like, okay, that is a good point. That is a very good point. But we've not addressed that anywhere else. So throwing that in at the end, at the denouement, where everyone's learning their lessons and stuff, it felt weird and out of place and just didn't work. It was a hodgepodge of, okay, I kind of feel like Kevin Feige got stuck and just went, oh, yeah.
But you agreed to this, right, Kevin? Oh, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, the Disney Plus slate doesn't have anything at Christmas. You're like, shit, he's right.
Yeah.
It's sorry. Look, I mean, I know some people like it, but this is terrible. This is the worst thing James Gunn's had his name on for a very long time. Hopefully, it's no guide to the quality of what he's going to produce with Volume 3, because I did not like it. And I just put that on the pile with everything else they've released on Disney Plus this year, because it's all been garbage.
Yeah.
Don't come at me with that fucking shit about Loki being good, because it wasn't.
No. It was average at best. Moon Knight was good in parts, but didn't really do anything with the end. But I do have a little tease for next week. At least I think it will be next week. The release of Apple TV's big Christmas movie, Spirited, with Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds.
Ugh, I've heard it's terrible.
Yeah. I think everyone's hoping that Will Ferrell in it doing another Christmas movie will be like Elf, but no.
That moment, I fear, has passed. That film's what, 18 years old now or something?
Yeah.
By the way, I don't know. It's already out, I think.
Oh, okay. Woo! Yay!
Yeah. So yeah,
I'm so
it's got
excited.
15,000 votes on IMDb for a 6.6. So keep expectations to low.
Mm-hmm.
Have we got to an early sponsor break quickly?
Let's get to an early sponsor break. Yeah. All right. Sponsor of the week. Who is our sponsor of the week?
Our sponsor of the week is the Australian children's television show Pugwall Summer. Pugwall's Summer. Pugwalls. Pugwall's Summer. Notable because the book it's based on was written by my kindergarten teacher. That's right. She stole the idea from me. But I'm not bitter. Margaret Clark, I'm looking at you. You're probably dead. I don't know.
All right. Well, here is
Pugwall Summer.
Nobody tell me what to do. No, not me. Nobody tell me what to say. Can't you see? I've got a dream, I'm gonna make it. If there's a chance, I'm gonna take it. With drums a thumping, bass player pumping, keyboards and me on my guitar.
Ready to take delivery of the cable yet?
Is it still cash for cable?
Yeah, and interest for any delay. Be back here at 4.
Dad, I thought our partnership was a terrific idea.
Son, if you want a dream, you have to learn what it costs. Now, I will not lend you money to chase what you know is a hopeless quest. Yeah.
Who's staying after school? Who's breaking every rule? Bad boys. I got it. Mum lent it to me.
Great, I'll pay you back, I promise.
Don't know where to quit. Bad boys. Bad boys. Now enough is enough. Radical. Radical. I know. Really?
Isn't that unbelievable?
How could
She's
she?
been on the phone for an
I said
hour.
to Pammy not to
And that's
tell
only
anyone,
Bethy.
And I meant not
She's still
anyone.
got to tell the secret to
Includes
Melissa and
Amy, Melissa,
Pammy
Carrie,
and Carrie and
Francie,
the rest.
Who am I talking
That'll
to
take
now?
her all week.
Oh, Bethy, right.
I mean, I'm a reasonable guy. You've known me long enough to know that. But that isn't fair. That's not even human. That's a recorded voice going berserk.
Hey, psst,
Easy. What are you doing here?
trying to ring you. Is your phone out of order?
Nah, anyone who tries to get in contact with this place would do better sending smoke signals. But what's the problem?
You know that cable you bought?
Yeah.
That's telephone cable.
What?
Hope is for recording. Great for phones.
Oh, I'll kill that con.
Did you pay much for it?
Nah, not much.
That's a relief. What are you going to do with the cable when you get the proper stuff?
Sell it?
To sell something, you've got to have a buyer. And who wants all that telephone cable unless
You want a phone? Oh, yeah.
Then the rest of the world can make contact.
Oh, you're a genius, Husey.
I'll have to go into the house
Right.
with all the spiders.
Don't worry, they're well fed.
I suppose I've got no choice.
It took forever.
What the hell was that noise?
I told you you shouldn't have left that food out, Dad.
Whew, boy. That's a show.
There you go. That was a very popular television show once upon a time here.
Yep, and it's nice to see that we've been able to evolve.
Let it not be said that She-Hulk was the first one to break the fourth wall because Pugwall Summit did it first. It was meta before a meta was meta. Pathetic. My kindergarten teacher did write those books. So
there you go.
And the guy who played Pugwall went on to be in a metal band. So, that too.
Well, I could tell from the hair.
Speaking of metal, do you want to talk a little about what you make of Rammstein's new record?
Yeah, Rammstein, a band I generally enjoy but don't really partake too often of. It's like I discovered them as many people did on the soundtrack for the original Matrix movie. This came out of nowhere on Facebook, and it was a music video for their album Zeit, and it's the song called Adieu. And it's really fucking weird and cool. And the music video is 8 minutes long, and it's shot like a action movie in the realms of kind of dystopian future, Matrixy, absurdist people walking around with miniguns and things like that. But the song itself is actually really cool. And so I downloaded the rest of the album, and it's pretty fucking cool. It's a little softer in comparison to previous stuff that you've listened to probably with Rammstein, but it's good. And miraculously, I think I actually understand a little bit of the German from high school. I'm like, I finally have a use for that language I never did anything with except order beer.
That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
They've made some interesting film clips over the years. They, of course, the film clip for Pussy, if you're not familiar with it, was so explicit it could only be released on actual porn sites.
Wow. Okay.
That's for legit. They legitimately made a film clip so that explicit. And look, I mean, your own taste will determine about whether that's something you want to engage in and see. But it's kind of incredibly well made, I must say, for something that explicit. So, they've been famous for making pretty crazy over the top videos.
Yeah,
and they remain one of.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, they're one of the best live bands I've ever seen. I remember in 2001, I had a chance to see them here in Melbourne. They were playing down in St Kilda at the old Palace, which is not there anymore. And I remember it was 2 gigs. I was here for the big day out that year. And one side at the Palais, which is still in St Kilda, PJ Harvey played.
Yeah.
And I was a big PJ Harvey fan at the time. And Rammstein played next door. And I'm like, whoa, which one do I buy tickets for? To this day, eternally grateful that I bought tickets to see Rammstein because I've only been back here once since then.
Wow. And it seems like everything about them is experiential. It's that the booming bass, the vocals that they have, the visuals, the visual aesthetic of everything. And as you say, their music videos are always kind of top tier European music videos coming out. So yeah, I can imagine that being good live.
Exceptional. I mean, I know you would never have been to the Prince Band Room because it burnt down 10 years before you moved here. But
I was not involved.
That's what he says now. But it was a very small room. And I was with I remember going, there's no way they're doing all their fire stuff tonight, not in this room. tiny, right? And they did all their fire stuff. You know, to a point where there's the keyboard player surfing over the mosh pit in an inflatable canoe. And at one point, the lead singer Till, spraying the mosh pit with what I assume was water coming out of a prosthetic penis that he actually attached to himself at one point in time. It was a whole thing.
There you go. There you go.
If you do have a chance, if you're lucky enough to live in a territory that they deign worthy to tour, which is not this one, do yourself a favor and get out and see them if you like that kind of music. Or Metallica, for that case. Metallica has announced their tour dates for the next couple of years. This country is not included. Fuck you. Fuck you, Metallica. 2019, they were supposed to tour here, and James Hetfield fell off a wagon, and so they cancelled it, and they haven't fucking found the space to reschedule. Isn't that kind of a bit rude? You're a multi-squillionaires. You know what I mean? Like, and you're going to make money. You're going to make less money here, I know, than like you would in Europe or the US. But like 3 years ago, you were supposed to come out. You had to cancel because you didn't know how to keep it in your pants. And like all of us, you don't even find a space to go, you know what? We kind of fucked those people over pretty good. You don't come back. I'm pissed about that. Fuck you, Metallica.
No, have we considered offering them or possibly not offering them a Palmer while they're here?
I don't think they deserve a Palmer. They don't deserve a
In
Palmer.
that case, no Palmer.
They deserve a Palmy. Fuck you. I bet they're the kind of guys who refer to it as a potato scallop. And if you don't know, that's a very Australian reference. People listening to the podcast and anybody unlucky enough to watch the stream, you're going to have to Google that one. What else have we got? You wanted to talk about Peripheral. How is that going?
It's going good. It's taken its foot off the gas, so to speak, as we've progressed through the season. I believe that we're actually about to receive the season finale right now. The Peripheral, here we go, coming up, 8 episodes, and yes, so they released just a couple of days ago episode 7, The Doodad, which I have not had a chance to watch yet, and then they've got Creation of 1,000 Forests, the finale. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting threads that are going, but none of them are really progressing, particularly at any impressive pace. And so you kind of feel like, all right, what is season 1 just all set up? You're not gonna get any payoff in season 1, or are they just saving it all for a big season finale? I don't know. Curious to see what happens. The 8.2 for The Doodad is current rating on that, and it is the highest rating since the pilot, which also had 8.2. 8.1 for Empathy Bonus, which was good. So hopefully the last 2 episodes really bring it back, but otherwise it's cooling off, which is disappointing.
It sounds like it's following the standard Lost formula we use these days. Intriguing premise, great pilot in the first couple episodes, but start without knowing exactly how it's going to end.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it is based on the William Gibson novel, so maybe it's just being true to how they've decided to separate up the novel for season 1 and 2 and things like that. I don't know what they're doing. I haven't read the book, so I don't know if they're splitting this, if it's a single book that they're doing, or if there are many that they're kind of pulling in for William Gibson's work or expanding it like The Hobbit. It's got me a little nervous because this could very well be another Jonathan Nolan is writing too intelligently for TV.
Yeah, it's look. We can only hope. When they stick the landing, I remember going into so many last episodes of shows lately going, will they stick the landing? Severance in particular. I thought Severance was going to do exactly that, set it all up and just sort of peter out in the last episode, but they stuck the landing out and made it all better. So I would be, we'll hold our fire on that one.
Yeah.
Disappointing we haven't quite got there yet.
Yeah. Shall I quickly rattle off thoughts on Reacher as well, just to wrap up the Prime Video stuff?
By all means. Are you a fan? First of all, are you a fan of the TV films, the Tom Cruise films?
I thought the first one was okay. The second one was a bit rubbish, but it wasn't bad. I'd never read any of the books by Lee Child, but season 1 of Reacher is an adaptation of the first Reacher novel by Lee Child called The Killing Floor, and it stars Alan Ritchson as Jack Reacher, probably best known for most people as he was the original Arthur Curry in Smallville. And Malcolm Goodwin plays Oscar Finley, who I only really know because he was a detective in iZombie a couple of years ago. Beyond that, the only other name that I actually know, you've got Bruce McGill, who he is your typical Texan man. When you see a photo of him, you go, "Oh, that guy."
That guy.
Yeah. And there's one other person. Oh yeah, Kristen Creek, who was she played Lana Lang in Smallville. It's a good show, and particularly it inspired me enough to start listening to the book on Audible, and it's a good adaptation of the book. It's solid. Alan Ritchson delivers a good performance, a truthful performance of the portrayal of Jack Reacher, and certainly his body, his shape and size. He looks like someone you don't fuck with, and he is just going to wreck fools.
That was the criticism of Cruise, of course. Was it Jack Reacher's supposed to be a big man?
Yeah.
Whereas Tom Cruise, he's not a big guy.
No, he's not a big guy. And the relationship that he has, that he builds over the course of the series with Finley, as well as Roscoe Conklin, who is played by Willa Fitzgerald. It's really quite a nice little Venn diagram of characters and the way that they interact with each other. The story is overall compelling and interesting, and whilst it is a little bit kind of paint by numbers, it's adaptation of the first book, so I think part of that is just how the novel was constructed of this, and this. This is what I'm going to cover in my first novel, and they do it well. It's still very, very serviceable. I really hope that they get a second season, because I think that Alan Ritchson has been gifted a character that is very much within his wheelhouse of being able to deliver. We've talked about those kinds of roles, a la Wonder Woman for Gal Gadot and Black Adam for The Rock and things like that, where it's like, okay, we know what your parameters of being an actor are. Let's play within those lines, and you'll sing. You'll be fine. You'll be happy. Yeah, it was. I wasn't expecting much from it. It's an adaptation of as you've said in the past for some of them, it's an airport novel. And it actually is entertaining. It's engaging. The episodes are about an hour long, I think. There's 54 minutes to dropping down to 40 minutes. There's 8 of them for the first season, and it just does everything it needs to do. It doesn't try and redefine what action or slash thriller storytelling is trying to be. It is very true to representing the character of Reacher from the books, as far as I've experienced to this date. So it's enjoyable.
So you don't have to be a fan of the films. You don't have to be a fan of the novels to get something out of this one.
Yeah, you can absolutely just jump straight in, as this is the first adaptation of the first Jack Reacher novel. You can very comfortably get in there. The basic premise for it is Jack Reacher is arrested for murder, and now the police need his help trying to find the killer in a sleepy town in a place where very clearly things are not as they seem.
They never are they?
No,
never. If things are what they seem, life would be so much simpler.
Never trust a small town, especially places called Long Melford.
Ha!
Absolute meth labs.
Places that don't close.
Do you want to talk a little bit about Amsterdam?
Sure. So, Amsterdam is the new film directed and written by David O. Russell. For those of you who are not familiar with that name, he's a fairly well-known director by now. American Hustle, Three Kings, Silver Lining Playbooks, The Fighter. This is his first film for a little while. His last film, feature film before this was Joy, starring Jennifer Lawrence in 2015. Oh, yeah. So he's been quiet for a while. He also did I Heart Huckabees, which is an odd one. Back away now. And I think you either like David O. Russell or you don't. This is the very opposite of Reacher. This is not airport novel stuff. You can just jump in and swim around like a warm bath, you know. He's a very particular kind of director. And at times I've liked his stuff. Three Kings is a good film. Silver Lining Playbooks is pretty good for a rom-com. But American Hustle in particular, I fucking hate that movie. And like how people just blew him after that film came out. I always remember a quote from David O. Russell at the time was, "I'm not interested in story, I'm interested in character." And that is a film, American Hustle, that will display. If you ever wonder what a film utilizing that philosophy looks like, it's American Hustle, and it makes zero sense. This film has split people a little bit. 6.1 rating on IMDb, 48 Metascore. It was a bit of a flop when it came out. Big cast. Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, John David Washington, and Andrea Riseborough again, Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Rock, Mike Myers, Michael Shannon, Taylor Swift, Timothy Oliphant, Zoe Saldana, Rami Malek, Robert De Niro. It's loaded. In the 1930s, 3 friends witness a murder and are framed for it and uncover one of the most outrageous plots in American history. This movie sucks. I mean, it's so fucking pretentious. Really, the real trial to get through 2 hours and 14 minutes of this, to the point where I don't even think I can remember what the outrageous plot was. I know I remember it. I had to stop and think about it because I just done such a great job of eviscerating this piece of crap from my memory. This is a terrible, terrible, bad movie, and they should feel bad about themselves for making it. The only person in this film who brings their A game is Christian Bale. Shock horror. If you go back to Thor, Love and Thunder, another very bad movie, and Christian Bale was in a different film to the rest of the cast. You know, Christian Bale, incredible performance from Christian Bale. Really interesting character. You know, really well acted. And you're like, can we see less of fucking Hemsworth and more of Bale, please? And same sort of thing here. He plays a doctor who survived the First World War with some injuries and a bit of a drug addiction. But what a fascinating character he plays. And it's sort of It's Christian Bale in goofy sort of semi-comedic mode. It's a comedy drama, according to this. So there are apparently jokes in this film. I might have been in the toilet when they came, because I didn't notice any of them. The real highlight, apart from Christian Bale's character in this, is seeing Taylor Swift shoved under a truck in the first 10 minutes of the film, which fortunately ends her performance in this film. And if there's one thing we learned about Taylor Swift in this film, is that she should stick to fucking music, because she is not an actor. Look, I don't know if she'd get a Guernsey in Pugwall Summer. There, I said it. I think Husey in Pugwall Summer, who was installing the phone under the floor, was doing a better job. Fuck. So essentially, we have a triangle of friends in this film. We have Christian Bale playing Burt Berenson, Margot Robbie playing Valerie Vose, and John David Washington playing Harold Woodman. Christian Bale was a soldier, an officer in the First World War, and commanded a unit in which Harold Woodman, John David Washington, served. And so, having served under Christian Bale in the war, they end up close friends at the end of it and end up in hospital together, having been injured in the fighting. At that hospital, they meet Margot Robbie's Valerie, who is, I guess, a wealthy socialite who is sort of, doing her bit as a nurse in the hospital. And the three of them form a close friendship, whereas John David Washington's Harold and Valerie maybe a little bit more than a friendship, but they are sort of a triumvirate of friends. And after the war, they move to Amsterdam. It's because it's in the title. You see, it's synergy.
Wait, Amsterdam, New York, or Amsterdam proper?
The actual Amsterdam in Europe. And at some point, stuff happens and they go their separate ways. Bert goes back to the United States to see his wife, who he doesn't really love, but reasons. And being, I'm trying to remember what. You ever go see a film and you go like, I hate this film so much, and then like 2 days later, someone's like, "What's it about?" You're like, Christian Bale's in it. But Harold and Bert witness. They are called upon by Taylor Swift to do an autopsy on her father, who she fears has been poisoned, rather than having just died of a heart attack, because he's some sort of general of national importance. That yawn really does sum the film up.
Sorry.
It really it's completely appropriate. And while they see her being murdered by being pushed under a truck, they're accused of a murder and have to sort of try and step ahead of. They meet with Taylor Swift to do an autopsy. While they're meeting with her, someone shoves them under a truck, but they're accused of doing it themselves. The person who does it is actually Timothy Olyphant. I never trusted him. He was a bad guy in Die Hard 4.
4.0. Thank you. Give it his full title.
And so you can see the plot's starting to get convoluted. They have to stay one step ahead of avoiding police, pulling all the strings they can to stay out of police custody, who think they murdered Taylor Swift. Obviously, it had something to do with Ticketmaster, I'd imagine. And at the same time, they reconnect with Valerie and find out who she really was, and she's actually connected to this famous family. And
wait, is she actually like some kind of plucky executive?
Well, they didn't have plucky advertising executives who were women in the 1920s, did they?
You don't know.
I don't think so. I wasn't there. It's true. It's basically comes down to is a thing that actually happened in the post World War I era called the General's Plot in the United States, where a wealthy group of corporate types tried to recruit a military leader to overthrow the government with a military coup. So you can Google it. It's a thing. It really happened. Anyway, this kind of formulates that plot. This regurgitates that idea. That's the big thing. I should have put the spoiler thing up. Sorry. Trust me, I did you a favor. This movie is long. It's boring. It's badly acted for the most part. It's a shame to see Margot Robbie really slumming it here. It's not her best work. I can't say it's her fault. I don't think she's given a lot to work with here. I think John David Washington was really good, to go back to Tenet, which I mentioned earlier tonight, but he's not great in this. Anya Taylor-Joy, maybe she isn't only in it for about 10 minutes, but she's fun. But give this one a very wide berth unless you happen to be. And if you're a fanatical fan of what David O. Russell does, then I guess you probably would have already seen it, or you're going to see it. But if you're thinking about it and you're like, I really like all those movies he said that David O. Russell's done, loved American Hustle, loved all that, then, maybe jump in. But I would say this is not his best work.
Okay.
And that's it's long, it's slow, it's boring. Maybe just you Google download it and watch a bit with Taylor Swift going out of a truck and then turn it off.
Skip to the end.
Mind you, at Nick Cave the other night, there was a bunch of hipster doofuses standing behind me waiting to get on the bus. Context. I was supposed to drive and park at the actual venue the concert was at, but it rained so much it was like quagmire. So we had to park in a town 15 minutes away and get a bus. The two hipsters behind me were just talking about what a great film Amsterdam was, how brilliant it was. And I'm like, insufferable fools. But if I didn't already hate this film, I would have after that. But fortunately, I got to cut that step out because I already hated it.
Okay. Damning Knives into Amsterdam there. All right. Well, should I talk about Wednesday on Netflix?
Why? Is Tim Burton's involved in this? Yes.
Yes. So this is a bit of a Tim Burton baby, which seems like the most obvious thing in the world. The Addams Family and Tim Burton, boom, match made in heaven. Because let's not forget, Tim Burton didn't direct the other Addams Family movies. It was Barry Sonnenfeld. So for people who have not watched them before and think that this is him going back to his old stomping grounds, nope. This is Barry Sonnenfeld. But this is Tim Burton's take on it. It is his, shall we say, marriage of two versions of Addams Family. So the Addams Family from the classic movies, which also co-starred Christina Ricci, who is in Wednesday, was actually a bit of a departure from the classic Addams Family TV show, which had starred John Astin as Gomez Addams. Am I getting that right? I think it was good. Yeah, I think so. And the original Charles Addams comics. Now we've had quite a bit of Addams Family over the years, and the original rendition or version of Gomez Addams was rotund and really weird and kind of almost like what you'd imagine a typical Igor in yes master kind of guys. Odd, but he's got this passionate romance with this super tall, thin, lithe, emotionless Morticia, perfectly cast with Angelica Houston in those first two movies. Raul Julia was cast as Gomez Addams in the Barry Sonnenfeld movies and was mesmerizing as a different, an alternative version of Gomez. Talking about this show, we have got Luis Guzman as Gomez Addams. So he is definitely more of that classic Charles Addams picture image. He is shorter. He is not a very handsome cut gentleman like Raul Julia was. We've got Catherine Zeta-Jones playing Morticia Addams, who, let's put it this way, there are many curves on Catherine Zeta-Jones, but at the same time, she does not have that hourglass hip that Angelica Houston was able to deliver, and the real pallid complexion. There's still a bit more tan on Morticia than you'd assume. Then we have got Jenny Ortega takes over the titular role of Wednesday Addams, And we do have Pugsley making a bit of a cameo appearance, but he doesn't get much time to really shine or anything like that, because this is a show about Wednesday Addams. The other big two members of the Addams family tree that we have got Thing, and we have got I've got to get his name right, because I think it's Richard Armitage, and he is someone that so many people will go, oh, him, Fred Armisen. My apologies. He is Saturday Night alumni. He's been in so many things as just a bit part character, but he is a phenomenal disappearance of character. He disappears into his roles really, really well, and he plays Uncle Fester. Other noticeable names in here, obviously, like I said before, we've got Christina Ricci. She is not playing any variation of Wednesday Addams or a member of the Addams family. She plays Marilyn Thornhill, one of the teachers at Nevermore Academy, which has got the Principal Weems, played by Gwendolyn Christie, who most people will know from her time with Game of Thrones. Also, the completely mesmerizing performance of Captain Phasma in the last Star Wars trilogy.
That was worth the wait, wasn't it? What they did with Captain Phasma. It was just
100%.
Absolutely worth all the pumping up they gave her.
Yep, 100%. So where does this come in? This starts off with Wednesday Addams arriving in school. This is traditional Americana school of all of the jocks and every facet of the school system that you can imagine. She sees something in either hers or Pugsley's locker. Opens it up. Pugsley has been put in there with an apple in his mouth. He's bound and tied. She has a vision, and she sees who did this. So she goes and gets revenge by all the jocks. They're all on the swim team. She unleashes a swarm of piranhas on them, and through reasons, she gets expelled instead of arrested for attempted murder, and gets sent finally to the Nevermore Academy for the outsiders, or the outliers. I can't remember what name they call themselves. It's the academy that Gomez and Morticia went to, and Wednesday is none too pleased, because she is very much of the opinion that she wants to walk her own path. She does not want to be in the shadow of Morticia, because this is definitely more of a mother-daughter combative relationship than anything else. She is presented here as you'd expect Wednesday Addams. She has got that dry, droll, cutting sense of her own sense of morality and moral standing. But she's also a writer, and she kind of works through a lot of her own stuff in the books. But because she was almost arrested, the court has said, yes, she can go to Nevermore, but she has to have therapy sessions. And she is very reticent on that. But as the first week or so goes by, she has 2 attempts on her life, and that inspires her to stay. She slowly but surely learns the comings and goings, in and outs, the cliques and groups of Nevermore Academy, as well as finding out the mystery as to why someone is trying to kill her and what is going on in this big, bold, scary world. Now, the first thing is you might be listening to that and going, that sounds a little bit like Sabrina the Teenage Witch on Netflix. And you'd be right. There are a lot of similarities. The difference is this one definitely has more of that sense of Addams Family comedy to it. And the touch of Tim Burton on this, who directs, I think, 3 episodes. 4 episodes is firmly felt on it. And this is actually Tim Burton putting some effort in as well, not his previous run of just doing Disney blockbuster movie adaptations. But the magic of this show very firmly hangs on Jenna Ortega's portrayal of Wednesday. She is really, really good in the role. She is very, very good at balancing being able to actually elicit very subtle emotion and internal struggle from a character who notoriously shows no emotion, shows no joy, no happiness, no sadness or anything like that. She weaves that line very expertly. This is a great role to show off her subtlety of ability. Everything else around it absolutely serves its purpose. The CGI is perfectly fine. The whodunit of it all is, I mean, yep, my curse is definitely there of, yep, I saw that coming. But I think most people will see this coming. And I don't think the mystery and the reveal of who is what and all of that is the point. The point is entirely about Wednesday's journey. And that is actually enjoyable. And every step of her effectively being forced to learn how to be an adolescent and how to actually make kind of relatable adolescent decisions and choices actually works quite well. There's a certain element of it, especially in the first few episodes, where you're looking at it going, all right, this kind of feels like an evolution of the sequences where Wednesday and Pugsley go to summer camp in Addams Family Values, and they are forced to do a couple of things. And it's a bit of a throwback, actually. She goes on her first actual date in this, and the boy that she goes on a date with says, oh, I got a horror movie for you. And it's this insanely fluffy, horrible, delightful movie some people might know called Legally Blonde. And just the subtle movements of her just kind of looking and reacting like it's a horror movie. It's very well done. It's very funny. And it's feels like a bit of a callback to when they go into the cabin and they have to watch all of those cute movies and stuff like that. And she comes out and just does her first smile and things like that.
I never saw those Addams Family movies in the 90s. I think maybe I aged out of that audience maybe a year or two before then. I seem to be very fondly remembered, but I have, never saw them.
Zero connection. That's fine. That's fine. I won't judge you too harshly. Everyone else is doing really well. Christina Ricci is perfectly solid, as she usually is in her role. Gwendolyn Christie is actually quite interesting in her position. Morticia and Gomez with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Louise Guzman. Louise Guzman is great as Gomez. Morticia and Catherine, I have never really watched a movie that I thought, Catherine Zeta-Jones is a great actress. I feel like she's definitely traded more on her looks than anything else. And
that's a hard call.
Really?
I thought she was pretty decent in going back a very long way here, but I thought she was pretty decent in Chicago.
Don't you fucking say that. Don't you fucking say that. The one movie I've walked out on, no.
Entrapment,
Yep, trading on her looks, yes. And Traffic.
I think it's, she's not she's never going to win an Academy Award. Okay, but I
think she also has the hardest part to do, because Angelica Houston, in my mind, is so so very much Morticia Addams. She is just absolutely incredible in the role, and that is an uphill struggle. Neither of the parents are given a particularly large amount of stuff to do. So they have, very limited time to actually cultivate a character. But like I said before, this is very much a mother-daughter conflict relationships story at its heart. And it doesn't quite work. Like throughout the first kind of few weeks of her time at Nevermore, Wednesday is kind of being displayed images of her mother when she went through being captain of the fencing team and captain of the rowing team and all of these other successes and stuff like that. But it's never really highlighted to a point where I just go, okay, I get there's more reason to Wednesday's vitriol against her mother. But at the same time, there's not any opportunity for Morticia to really kind of push it and just kind of say, I want you to be your own person and that sort of stuff. It feels a little bit underwritten or a bit too much left on the cutting room floor, perhaps. I don't know. By the end of the series, the characters are all overall enjoyable and likable, and they don't know if there's going to be a season 2, and they even make a joke about it at the end. One of the boys says, "Hey, Wednesday, will I see you next semester?" And she just walks away, not giving any kind of response, which is perfect for the character of Wednesday, but also we don't know if we're getting a season 2. If we don't, that's fine.
Wouldn't you be surprised if they did? I saw a story today. This is racked up some sort of records in terms of streaming hours.
Yeah.
And I think it seems to have penetrated the zeitgeist because I haven't watched it, but I keep seeing stuff on my socials about it.
Yes, definitely.
Maybe it's down to whether Jenna Ortega wants to do it. I understand she's a bit of a budding star. And from what you said here, she said that she holds the show together here.
Yes, definitely. Without her, I mean, potentially they could, if they weren't able to get Jenna Ortega back for a full season, and apparently she didn't like the fact that they changed directors throughout the series, she would have a lot of trouble working in any TV show. If that's the case, because it's not common to have the same director for the whole show. They could potentially go, you know what? Maybe we'll do one called Pugsley, and it's Pugsley's turn going through, and it's a very different kind of beast, and it focuses on Pugsley, and we get Jenna Ortega in to just cameo occasionally as Wednesday. But
I don't know why she's famous. Like, I know her name, and I don't know why. Like, I looked up all the films she's done, and I've never seen any of them.
Yeah.
I've never seen her in anything. But now I know who she is, and I don't know why.
Well, they've been teasing Wednesday for feels like forever. But yeah, I'm in the same boat. I know who she is, but I don't know who she is. The other thing that makes me a little positive but also cautious is the series creators on this one, the credited creators, which is Alfred Goff and Miles Miller. And it seems everything comes back to Smallville. They are the guys that created Smallville, and Smallville overall did a good job of telling a story of young Clark Kent before becoming Superman. But they also tread a lot of water, and they are also responsible for I Am 4, but then they've done other things like Spider-Man 2. So they're pretty successful team, but I don't know if everyone involved would want to come back. It seems like it was a little bit of a struggled production. I hope so, because I would happily see more of Jenna Ortega as Wednesday. I think the fact that they have kind of married this little bit of Nancy Drew-esque kind of novelist, detective kind of element to her is a very nice way of kind of allowing the dressing of a mystery of the week or murder of the season storyline hang that comfortably around her neck like a noose. It works quite well. I think that's very, very smart use of the character information there. Yeah.
So it's a bit of a mixed review, but I feel like mainly you're like, yeah, give it a go.
I think it's if you like the first half hour of the first episode, you will happily enjoy because it does hit its stride very early, and it sits comfortably in that, and it just keeps going. This is enjoyable.
Well, that's what you want. Enjoyable is about all you can hope for in this world.
Mm-hmm. With some of the things that come out on streaming services, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
I am not going. I've got plenty more to say. I got a few more things in the works. Rick and Morty still continuing on.
Mm-hmm.
What am I sum it up at the end of the season? I've also started watching a new show on Disney, which is called Chippendales, because everybody knows you want tits when you are watching Disney Plus. I've only watched 2 episodes right now. It stars Kamal Nanjiani. So I'm gonna keep my powder dry on that one until we have a bit more content to actually make a judgment call about. But it is made by, I believe, the same people who were responsible for the Pam and Tommy show that I talked about earlier in the year.
Oh yeah,
which I quite liked. So I think some of the episodes are also directed by Matt Shackman, if I'm not mistaken. If you don't know it, I'm pretty sure. I'm just really quickly cut through. I'm pretty sure he was the man who was responsible for WandaVision.
Oh yeah. That's
He also directed some Game of Thrones episodes. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So
yeah,
I won't go too deep into it now. I'm going to hold my power and talk it more, as I said. But if you're interested, if you like Pammy and Tommy, if you liked WandaVision, this is nothing like WandaVision, I should note. Probably more in common with Pammy and Tommy. Check it out. And you can listen in next few weeks when I have a little bit more to talk about with it.
Okay. All right. I have just started watching a show, recommendation from viewer Patrick, about Dairy Girls. So I will have more to say on that once I've consumed a little bit more. But so far,
I've not even. People really love this show. Like, I'm very interested to hear what you think about it.
Yeah. So I'll say nothing right now.
I don't know what this is,
but
I'm very curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, because the whole series has finished. I think it's 4 seasons. It's done. Yeah, I'm 2 episodes in, and I'm intrigued. So yeah, we'll have more to say on that in the future.
There we go. We're going to have next week. We'll have maybe some Dairy Girls. We might have a bit of a chat about Chippendales, and I will have the review of the 2nd season of Avenue 5, which is now concluded, and of course, hopefully, all sorts of other shenanigans. Who knows what exploration adventures in the world of heavy metal George will find this week.
Oh, I'm just going to go totally random and just go to like Indian punk rock.
Oh. May I recommend Bloodywood?
Bloodywood. Okay.
They are an Indian metal band. I like them quite a bit.
All right. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this week. We have been talking. This has been episode 166, which is insane to think about. Talked about our chain movie of the week, which was Birdman. We are going to be following with my link in the chain, The Book of Henry. Fingers crossed it turns out to be good. Otherwise, we will be expecting a pile of trash. We talked about Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, Rammstein, The Peripheral, Reacher, Amsterdam, and Wednesday. We had a show. But yet we got it under 2 hours.
And we bought it in under 2 hours. How good are we?
Look at that. Look at that. Delivering it with a headache. Professionalism all the way, ladies and gentlemen. But thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all of the channels. You may very well have noticed us. We are now live on Twitter as well, but we are not verified. Elon Musk, you are not getting my $8, at least not yet. You will get it later when I feel richer again. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you next time. Good night.